You guys did it. Indiana 13, Ohio State 10. We deliberated 2.5 Chalai on this game. You could easily argue 3. It's very weird. A 3-point game in a conference title game. I think we'll get some pushback on that. I think some people thought that may be a 4 Chalai game. I couldn't help but watch it before I talk a bunch of Indiana. I couldn't help but watch it and say, this seems familiar. Ohio State's played this game half a dozen times this year. This kind of compressed, compacted game. They play kind of conservative, but you're sitting there thinking to yourself, they're playing this way because they don't need to play any other way. I've seen that before from them. What I haven't seen is that against a premier opponent that limits your scoring drives and you're unable to convert scoring opportunities. That happened last night. That was really the big difference. So that means giant tip of the cap, if I was wearing one, to Indiana. Because what we have here is we have our bad luck game of the year. The bad luck stat is opposite of the padlock stat. The padlock stat on this show is the one thing or the one stat that if I told you Friday, you would have known the outcome of the game. A bad luck stat is the kind of stat that would so badly have misled you, you would have bet your house or your farm, perhaps you live on a farm, and you would have lost it all. This was the latter. This is a bad luck stat game of the year. And it's very simple. If I tell you that Indiana's scoring 13, you are printing the programs. You are buying the merchandise. You are assembling the bags of confetti for Ohio State. They have won the Big Ten championship. And you know what? That's not true. Because Indiana scored 13, and it was good enough because the other guy only scored 10. That is the fewest amount of points Indiana has scored in a game under Curt Cignetti, and they won a conference title anyway. It's the fewest points Indiana has scored in a win since 2001. Fernando Mendoza surged in the Heisman odds after this game, and that's wonderful. And he cut one of the all-time legendary promos on that field after the game, and me knowing full well there's a lot of America that has not watched an Indiana game so far this year, therefore you haven't heard Fernando Mendoza talk, and that had to be, in the best of ways, just a cold splash of water to the face. Fernando Mendoza's one of one. Diego Pavia's one of one. Whatever the oil and the water of the Heisman odds were, and whatever the oil and water of personality is, you've got it on display. I mean, Pavia's dressed to the nines with his entourage walking into a UFC fight last night with his team recording the entire thing. And Fernando Mendoza is replacing the F word with flippin' on national TV. Multiple times in his thanks and his effusive praise of his team and his teammates and his creator, and I have full respect for that. I'm not making fun of him. I'm just saying if you listen to it and you've never heard Fernando Mendoza talk, you might have thought to yourself, what is this? What is happening? What is going on? A Big Ten championship winning quarterback. That's what's going on. So we get to see him go to the playoff, but that's not what stands out. Boy, that was long-winded. I planned on that being 5 seconds. Great for all those guys. Here's what happened last night. Bryant Haynes locked up the Broyles Award, and I'm a voter, so I'm sort of publicizing my vote here. Indiana's defensive coordinator locked up the Broyles Award last night, as far as I'm concerned. Holds Ohio State to a season low in points, season low in rush yards, 5 sacks for that defense, 9 tackles for loss. They owned the red zone. They held Ohio State to 4 of 12 on 3rd and 4th down. Again, imagine pulling up to the building in the buses. Hey, Bryant, offense is going to score 13 for you. Is that enough? And he goes, yeah, we'll be good. He was right, as it turns out. Ohio State played this game. Hey, guys, do me one favor. Check and see if you're subscribed to the channel. If you are, great. If you're not, it's that easy. It's free. It doesn't cost you anything. It doesn't sign you up for anything. It just helps us do the show this way forever. All right, back to the clip. No matter what I say here, it's going to be put in the hype video for whenever they play a playoff game. You know what? Ryan Day's done a lot for us. I owe this to Ryan Day. Ohio State played like Meemaw used to drive. Not reckless, not irresponsible. I don't mean those things at all. I just mean they played like they had some time to kill. That's how Meemaw used to drive. Meemaw was like the Tom Coughlin of leaving early to arrive early. If you're 10 minutes early, you're on time. If you're on time, you're 10 minutes late. And so Meemaw would always leave with plenty of time. Like church started at 7. We would leave her house at 6:20, knowing full well it's only 20 minutes away. Well, here's the trade-off. We're going to do 64 miles an hour in the right lane because we got time to kill. We don't need to be anywhere 5 minutes from now. And that's just how I felt like Ohio State played last night. They had 2 drives, trailing, mind you. They had a couple of drives. One of them was 12 plays, 70 yards, took about 7 minutes. Another drive was 15 plays, 81 yards, took about 8 minutes, and got 0 points out of either of those. And they were down 13-10 as those drives happened. The red zone's still an issue with them. Missed field goal, can't convert on 4th down. I just kept thinking to myself, how are they this deep in the game and not allowing that wide receiver core to take over? Now, the logical counter to that is, well, if you're so high on Bryant Haynes and that defense of Indiana, maybe they weren't letting them take over. No one dictates what Ohio State's wide receiver room is able to do. If they are able to, like if alignment or if matchups are able to dictate that Jeremiah Smith ends up being a non-factor late in the game, it is a dereliction of coaching duty. It's not that he lost his potential. It's not that he lost his talent. And it's also not that you got him on a team where it's him and a bunch of middle schoolers. You're so loaded in that room. There's just no excuse for Ohio State to be that bottled up, but they were. So Curt Cignetti, the worst nightmare to me of like every other head coach in the country. Curt Cignetti's ruined it for a lot of guys. A lot of guys look at Cignetti and they probably, praise him publicly, but behind the scenes, do you understand how hard he has made other coaches' lives? Because he burns all the excuse making. Because if Curt Cignetti can walk into Indiana in year 1 and do what he did, and then follow it up with the year 2 performance, no one gets to ask for patience anymore. No one gets to look at their AD and say, we just don't have enough resources. No one gets to say, we just got to recruit a little better. Because the AD is going to look back and say, well, Sig doesn't have to. Curt Cignetti didn't say that. And what do you say? Well, you're going to say, well, we're not Indiana. They're not accepting that. Well, I'm not Curt Cignetti. That dude was at JMU searching for an opportunity in his 60s that Indiana finally gave him. They're not accepting that. Now, I'm not saying that's logical or rational. I'm saying it is. That's just the way it's going to be. And I go back to last year. Here's where I was so wrong about him. Curt Cignetti kind of turned what we thought was the main event into the warm-up act. Last year, they come out of nowhere. This is one of the stories of college football season. And they overachieved so drastically that even though they got blown out against Ohio State and they got handled pretty thoroughly against Notre Dame, like my perspective was, don't hold them to the standard you would Georgia. This is Indiana. You've got to be effusive in your praise that they're even in this conversation. But the follow-up was, it's probably a one-time deal, though. And they'll fall back to earth. That was just their warm-up. This team was so much better this year than last year's team. This team, we ended up having them power rated number 2. By the time they played Ohio State, and well before that, they were a legitimate number 2. I'm talking, when I say power rating, I mean like odds making, who would be favored, neutral field, that sort of thing. Last year, Indiana was never that. They were an inflated record because they played an inferior schedule and they executed really well. But then when it came time to play the big boys, they got put in their place. This year, they are the big boy. And they put one of the other ones in its place yesterday. And now we get to see them with a first-round bye. They're the number 1 overall seed in the playoffs. They're the Big Ten champs. And I don't want to fall victim to knee-jerk reaction or speak hyperbolically, but I don't know how you don't at least consider Curt Cignetti on Mount Rushmore. Of college football, Josh? No. Oh, you mean of all sports? No. No, just the Mount Rushmore. Just the Mount Rushmore. I know it's only presidents so far, but none of them have won Big Ten titles. None of them. Could a Theodore Roosevelt? You think Abraham Lincoln is winning the Big Ten in year 2 anywhere? Much less at Indiana. I don't think so. So give me Sig on Mount Rushmore. Who says no? And if you say no, you better give me good reason.